Part 2
Part 2.
on
How to be awesome in vending.
how to be awesome at vending, and what to be terrified of, and what to be very grateful for.
Yes.
So to recap, quick recap.
Who are you?
Lex. That's a really quick recap. Who are you?
I am William.
Existential question.
Yeah, who are any of us? Though?
Who are we really?
Yeah. Why are we? I think it's the better question.
Part 2 of not looking at collectibles, but more tips and tricks for how to vend physical locations.
Yes.
And as I was kind of saying, quick recap.
Yes.
And that's in my head. I like quick recap. I just like saying it.
Quick recap.
Quick recap. So William and I have sold for years in different areas, very residential, very city, very dense, open air markets and environments, also collaborative concert festival venues. We've done that sort of thing. We've done, the vintage site setups, indoor antique malls, very fine establishments, very high-end antique stores, like by appointment only, by membership only viewings.
The whole mixture.
We've also done all the online stuff, or a lot of, I shouldn't say all, because gosh only knows. There's probably 100 times more. But like Etsy, eBay, Depop for a significant amount of time. Mercari, Poshmark, right? You could
Facebook,
go on and on.
Instagram, all that.
I'm not a huge on the Facebook marketplace. Yeah. I know some people are really great at it, but I can't. That's not my claim to fame.
I'm gonna move your puppy, who's right by
my
you. Puppy
likes to actually. Does anyone else have this problem where she puts her head on the roller wheels in my desk chair so I can't move? It's like an ownership thing. Yeah. But then I'm always afraid I'm gonna hurt her if I breathe too hard. So anyway,
and she gets offended if you move her. Like, how dare you?
So when we're talking about these tips and tricks, we've been over some of the negative aspects of getting into business with the wrong people.
Right.
But I also want to say, as I'm going over some of these things, not everything applies to every venue. Like, if you're selling handmade soaps at a farmer's market, that's probably not the best place to put a luxury premium onto your items. But you also don't want to do, a blowout flash sale if you're working in a by appointment only high-end luxury antique store.
Right.
So those are two different types of things. So like when I'm talking about those sorts of things, think about what William and I are saying and where it applies to you and how it applies to you. Because not everything applies across the board in every situation. Like the things you're going to do in an antique mall might not be the same things you're going to do in a farmer's market. Mm-hmm. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah, and obviously the farmer's market generally are, while you might have multiple days in a month or whatever, there's a little bit less things to look for when it comes to the pitfalls, I guess, with the vendor or with the
there are pitfalls, but there's less around, like when you're merchandising an area like that, it's going to be a smaller area and things like that, and it's going to be you're going to have to keep it light. You're going to have to worry about whereas you're probably, unless you're doing rummage sales in the Midwest or something, you're not doing furniture at a farmer's market. Right. But you would absolutely probably do that at an antique mall.
Yep.
So we'll discuss some of that. But some so either place, vase, not vase, I would say curate well, edit well, whether you're vintage reselling, antique, luxury selling, merchandising, your handmade soaps, or there's so many things people could be selling in these sorts of venues.
Yeah.
But you should curate, you should edit. You have to show some discipline, especially when it comes to vintage and antique reselling and in clothes booth spaces where you're paying like a monthly fee or something like that. Don't just put everything all at once into, say, your space that you just thrifted for the last month. That doesn't make sense. You really shouldn't have Easter items year round. You shouldn't have spring stuff in the middle of winter. Yeah. There's ways to do it and do it well. That doesn't mean that you have to restrict yourself so much that you're not lucrative or that you're pigeonholed. There are ways to mix and blend different objects. I would say one of those DIY things you see online a lot, the loudest voices in the room, they all kind of repeat the same stuff. Or like, refresh, merchandise, stay in your lane, do your style. That's not actually always the best advice.
Right.
It's the simplest, it's the easiest advice to give. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And a lot of the things, like, have a focal point. That doesn't always work well.
No.
Those aren't things that actually always work well for everyone. But yes, branding. Yes, merchandising. That's a video onto itself. Maybe I could do one. Maybe I'll convince William to sit through a design and marketing video with me at some point just to help everyone out. But it's good to have some education and background in that. If you don't, look for free YouTube content. It's out there. You can find it. But yes, branding. Yes, merchandising. If you haven't researched it yet, start researching it. It is important. It's important even in a vintage mall of 120 vendors or something. You need a way for your space to be remarkable or memorable. Memorable, not rememberable. Remarkable or memorable. Yeah. This is a bit of a tongue twister.
It is.
Next bit of advice. Google Lens is not reality.
What? What do you mean by that?
So, you'll see this all the time. People will pick up Google Lens, right, the app, and take a picture and say, this is the value of this object. And what they're doing is looking for something called comps. Unbeknownst to them, it's not comparables. They're just looking at maybe what someone's trying to sell that object for on eBay. When you're seeing something available for sale, the first clue is it hasn't sold yet.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's the right or wrong price. It just means that what you're looking at is something available, which could mean it's not sold yet for some reason or another, possibly that the price is wrong and the evaluation is wrong. It could also be, and we've seen this, where someone is using cross-platforming software, sharing platforming software, and they'll make something $150 on eBay so that they can sell it for $50 in Mercari. Because when other people search the item and then see relative comparable items, they'll think it's different items and go for the one that's cheaper because it seems like the better deal.
Right.
Unbeknownst to them, the false price markup, say, on another site is in order to make them think that and come across that search in the search engine.
Yeah, that's quite common.
Yeah, it's actually really common. So that's something to think about. So when I'm saying, like, when you just research something online, it's not even a good jumping off point if you're doing something like Google Lens, unless you already have a background in education in what you're doing, right, and you're using other kind of subtle information into that process.
Yeah, even the low range of items. And we've said this on a few videos before, but you can sell, you know, a Ferrari for $50 if you want.
Right,
to.
I didn't mention that. Good
right?
point.
That
yeah, it's not always high. Sometimes it's marked too low, and then you'll go ahead and resell it too low as well after searching that. Yeah. So good point. Thank you, William. I didn't even mention.
You want to get the correct value for the product that you can, you know, move, but without undercutting it or just having it sit there forever because it's priced too high. So yeah, it's
possibly making you look like you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, if you have a price too high as well.
If you have it in
a
too
good
low,
collector will know.
Too low makes it seem like it's not legit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely use in getting the correct pricing.
Also, when I say Google Lens is not a reality, for all of our listeners out there who are trying to resell, market these sorts of things, find good antiques and then try to figure out what they're worth. When you are at a garage sale, the price you are going to get for your object is not going to be the same price that you're going to get after an appraisal affidavit at Sotheby's when you wait 2 years to put it into the correct lot at the right auction in front of the right people.
Exactly.
It's also at an estate sale not going to be the price you could get by having an online business that you have to moderate, work with, invest time and money into financially, and then ship from, where your entire demographic, when you're selling something online, even just nationally, not even interdomestically, just at the domestic level, you are now opening it up to like 2 million people to view and purchase that object.
Right.
When people are coming on foot to an estate sale, your demographic is not 2 million people. Right. So thinking you're going to Google Lens an object and then sell it at a sale like that for an online price where you're not taking in, you know, the business, the education behind finding those items, the ability to operate a shipping business as well, which is attached to that, to photography. There might be some other salary costs, posting listings, details and information, all of those things. That's not happening in an estate sale. So if you just like take a picture of a teacup and then try to get what eBay's asking for,
right,
that's not always going to happen because your price has to be less because it's the 20 people or 200 people on foot that are seeing it that day, not the 2 million that are seeing it for 2 months or 2 years online.
Right.
So in that way, Google Lens is not the reality as well. You have to think about where you're selling. Now, that isn't to say that teacup from that estate sale is not worth that full antique evaluation that might be given rightly online. It's just you can't get that for it at that venue at that time.
Exactly.
So when people say things like, appraisers appraise too much, or something's only worth what someone's willing to buy for it. Ugh. I hate these. These statements are intended to take advantage of you, undermine you, make you think you don't know what you're doing, get someone else a good deal. Whoever's saying these things, get away from them. That's not true. Antique items have an evaluation. They have a price. They have a value. So do vintage items. So do collectible items. They absolutely do. And learning what those evaluations are is part of the process of gaining some experience. But, you can't just... It has to... If you want to sell an object in 2 days, you're going to get less than if you're willing to wait 2 months. And if you want to sell an object where people have to come to you and pick it up in order to purchase it, you're going to get less than if you have to make it available to them shipping somewhere in another state, which is much more convenient for them. But if it's fragile, especially, it could be much more inconvenient for the seller.
For sure. So,
and if it's an online business, they're going to have different expenses than someone who's having a driveway sale for 2 hours on an afternoon when they've got nothing to do. Because they're going to have things like logos and letterheads and listing and curation and all these other, and finding information, typing it all up. So you have to think about that. Google Lens is not the reality. If you're opening a vending booth, Google Lens is not the reality. Your inventory investment should be 10% what you can sell it for. Now, people think that's insane. It isn't. For vintage and antiques, when you're looking to resell from a physical space or even online, not including other expenditures if you're selling online, like shipping and things, 10%, like if you pay $1, you should be able to sell it for 10. If you pay $10, you should be able to sell it for 100. And people are like, no, that's impossible. No, it is possible. That's what William and I's margins work from there for these businesses, not for all our other businesses. Different businesses, different soft and hard goods, different things have different margins.
Absolutely.
This is this margin. I'm going to tell you right now, this is what works. It works well. And even if I tell you that, even if you think you're going to do it, you're still not going to adhere to it. There are going to be times where you're going to walk in and you're going to say, I'm going to adhere to the 10% investment for return. And you're still going to spend 20% on something or 30% on something. It's going to happen. But at least have it in your mind all the time, 10%.
Right.
And then at least, hopefully, you're mitigating some of that overspending.
Yeah, because otherwise you get caught in the trap of, well, I can buy it for $50, but it sells for $57 online. That's a $7 return. That's not nothing.
It is nothing.
Yeah.
It is nothing. That's actually you probably losing, I would say, depending on the item, if it's a $50 item, probably around $23.
Yeah.
After you sold it for $57. Now, here's how that works, right? Because it's the gas that it took you to get there to find it. It's the time that it took to source with whatever other sources you found that day or hour. It's the time to clean it, transport it, tag it, research it, get it back to your house. All of that is your salary, your time. Your time has value. These people who tell you that you can volunteer your time or your time is not worth anything, volunteer your time at the Cancer Society. At the Audubon Society. Volunteer your time where it is volunteer work, not to line someone else's pockets. If you are running a business, your time has a value. And I challenge you, any owner, any renter, anyone who says otherwise, or these other vendors that go, oh, I don't mind, it's just free available time, and they talk to you like that, tell them to go ahead and do that in a real business where they needed to earn money. Right? Which is what you're trying to do.
Yes.
So even if they say, I used to be a school teacher and I will put hundreds of hours of free time. Well, first of all, that was your choice. And second of all, it was the wrong choice. And what you did was undermine other teachers with or without you knowing it and not get paid enough.
Right.
And that's just a weird example. I don't know why that one popped up. Because I know friends that really struggle to even get paid the bare minimum of what they're worth. And it is a struggle. And volunteering is volunteering. It does not belong in the workplace. And even if people are volunteering in the workplace to line someone else's pockets, which is going to make it a miserable experience for you to earn money there. Just think about that. How are you going to accomplish that if other vendors in the same place are working for free, which is what that is? That's not even fiefdom labor. It's like really bad. I don't want to say the word. You're not getting paid for your time when you're working. There's a word for that. Yes. So it doesn't belong in that space. And if you have to compete with it, you will fail. You will fail. Countries and things were built on the backs of that kind of labor. Yeah. You will not compete with it. Market. Yeah. Yep. So you have to get out of that space. You got to find some place where your time is valued, and you must value your time. Don't be the person that's giving away your time for free. Your time matters. Your background matters. Your education matters. Sourcing items matters. All these things. So, it's $50. I can sell it for $57. No, it's $50, and it's actually, after you go through this process, now worth $80. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it is.
Absolutely.
So that moves into like rule number 100 or whatever we're on. I have no idea. So on top of your inventory investment should be 10% of what you can resell it for, antique or vintage. Start there. Markup isn't a choice. It's just the norm. I hear the word markup used in marketing in vending situations. People think markup is I buy it for this and then I mark it up to that. And they think markup means that. That's not what markup means in business. Like if you take a businessing course, markup is what a retail sells for at market. It's the base price. It's wholesale becomes retail.
Right.
And that's how you have to approach these things. So it's the price, it's the norm, full stop. If you bought it for $2 and it is worth $20, that's not you marking it up from $2 to $20. It's the markup is that at market sells for $20 consistently. That's the markup.
Okay.
You can actually probably make it more than that, depending on what grade of a service, how easy you make it for customers, what else are you offering? Is it part of a larger collection you've sourced? Did you put more time into it? All these other things. Maybe you had to restore it if it's a piece of furniture or something. So, but markup doesn't mean you marked it up. Markup is the price, full stop. That's the norm. Get used to it. Drill it into yourself if you have to. You're not raising the price on anything. You're not even setting the price. You are just labeling what the price actually always was. Do not get smalls. Do not get smalls for vending in antique booths. You will see this. I see it all the time in antique malls. I see owners, renters, bad leasing practices. They will tell you to get smalls. Smalls are these things that are below like $20 to $10, smaller items that move quickly. You will go bankrupt selling smalls.
Well, that segues reversely to what you were just talking about, which is the profit margins, right? Because a small, you can't. It's almost impossible to get.
There is no profit margin in a small.
Profit margin,
yeah.
But the owner or the store operator gets their percentage regardless of what you bought it for. So if you sell for $20, they get their 10%.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they get their $2. If you sell for $20 and you bought it for $18. You don't get the same markup you don't get the same.
You just used the markup word wrong.
It's in my head now.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, so they make money regardless. So whether you get 0.01% profit or 0 or 100, they still make the money. So that's why they'll keep pushing for those small sales where it's a lot
faster
of,
money
right.
for them. And if the majority of their money is coming from rent,
yeah,
they don't care what you're selling an item from.
Exactly.
If 80% of their profit revenue is being sourced from their vendors paid rent, or paid hourly unpaid wages that are a discount against rent,
right?
They don't care.
Nope.
And then let's say they do have something like 10% commission on every sale, and you'd say, well, they'd want you to sell, things that are bigger. For them, if it's one big item in a year for $200 or 10 small items in a year for $20, that's the same amount of money to them. So, and it could make a huge difference to you because you could be losing a ton of money on the 20 little items.
Yeah.
So, but on the big item, so let's say the 20 little items you make 10 cents, 50 cents on each, something like that. That ends up being, I don't know, like $10 or something. But on the $250 item, you're making $210 because you only paid $20, you only spent $10 in gas, and you're making $200. See, they're making the same either way. Except with the smalls, you're getting taken advantage of in a big way, and they're getting that money faster. Absolutely. So much faster. Right. And they don't care that you want to be patient and earn something for less labor to yourself. You do. So you have to keep an eye out for that sort of thing. I've seen it. They will tell you to do it. They'll even say you're not making your rent because you don't have enough smalls. If you're not making your rent, something else is the problem.
Yep.
It could be marketing. It could be foot traffic. It could be you're not buying the right things. Let's take some responsibility for ourselves and our education. Maybe you need to go out there and figure out what isn't in that antique mall that you could find or source better. Maybe you're not sourcing well. You might need to do some more research, do your homework. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it is not because you don't have enough smalls. Don't believe it. It's nonsense. It's, if you think about it this way too, one $80 item, you might invest an hour in. But these small items, you have to source them so many more pieces. You have to transport them. You have to package them. You have to unpackage them so many more pieces. Not one medium or large piece, but like 20 to 30 little ones. Yeah. And then you have to tag them all. You have to price them all. You might have to clean them all. So you will go bankrupt. Do not do it. And if you hear people telling you to do it, or that saying, even 20%, 30%, we've seen bad practices like the place in Sacramento we just got out of. Literally treating its vendors horribly and telling them they should have 80% smalls in their booth. It's nope. Don't listen to it. It's bad for you. It might be good for the owner. You will go bankrupt doing it. You will work yourself to the bone and get nowhere. There's a little bit of an addendum to this, which is unless it's an add-on or lead-in, which is another branding and mercantile or merchandising thing. So add-ons are something like if you're selling margarita pitchers, you might put limes next to it as an add-on. It's something that every single time someone buys the larger product, they will additionally add on this other one if it's nearby. So even though you're not making a great amount of money from it, also usually add-ons are something you can get wholesale. Right. Or at such a low profit point or percentage point that you're profitable no matter what. So those are smalls in a sense, but not really. They're just add-ons. So you're not looking to go make the bank on them, right? Like you're not going to become a millionaire off of them. But it can be a sound investment to... if you have something, and you don't it's not really in antique malls and vintage places are you going to have a lot of add-on type stuff. No, it's not the right kind of non-sustainable good. So it's something else entirely. And then lead-ins, I mean, leads are something where it could be a small, but it's something where you're not going to make your money back out of it. Yeah. So you're, say, investing in some pieces to attract people to your booth. And knowing that getting them in there is half the battle, even though you might be losing a little bit of money on purpose on some of these other items in order to get them to look at and purchase the bigger items. And leads can be done well if you know what you're doing, and it is something to think about, and you can research more on that. We could talk about it more later. So I would say those are the two exceptions to the smalls rule, is when they're leads and add-ons. But otherwise, stay away from smalls.
Don't waste your time, literally.
I don't even know how people claim that they're not spending more time in revenue tracking financially what their gains are off of smalls than they are even reaccruing or assessing that bottom line. So don't do it. One of those DIY things you'll see all over YouTube, like all these people trying to be really helpful. Refresh your booth, refresh. And you'll hear sometimes from people with bad practices, oh, it's because you don't refresh your booth enough. You're not working your booth, quote unquote. Endless, like moving a teacup from the top right shelf to the lower shelf and a vase from here to there. It ain't gonna do anything. It's not gonna do anything. Yeah. It's just a way. It's busy work. It makes you psychologically feel from the person you're renting from like you're investing more time and energy. It makes you more emotionally attached. I can tell you the horrible psychological reasoning that this works, telling people this, but it's actually now if what you're talking about is rotating, where you're maybe taking stuff from one booth to another booth. Maybe you're taking something from a rural area into a more city area. I've seen people with city apartments are not as likely to just stop by for a cup of coffee in some of our downtown locations in some of our major cities that we're in. They're there with a friend to get a cafe a lot, not to pick up a brand new walnut dresser to drive home in a truck. Yep. So we'll end up taking, say, pieces of furniture out of there, moving them into a more rural location, generally near a furniture distributor, where now the antique mall that sells refurbished furniture or the vintage mall is actually where people might not go to the super expensive like box store furniture, and they'll be like, why don't we try over there? They might have something more unique, friendly, and it might be less expensive. Exactly. And then, but that's a rotation. You're rotating goods through multiple booths, or you're rotating with the seasons. Again, that's not a refresh. It's not, and I've heard ascribed to this word now, refresh too. I've heard bad managers and owners do this, where not only is refresh mean endlessly move stuff around your booth uselessly, which no consumer is ever tricked by, but also that you are responsible for if something doesn't sell fast enough to now eat that cost and replace it with new inventory. And that's part of the refresh process.
Right.
It isn't. Don't do that. If you're having to do that, you need to assess that, and something's not going right with your business. You need to fix it, get on it, or stop doing it. So that is something to think about. Give me just a second to pause the video here. Sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties with the video there for a second.
We are back.
Might sound like a weird glitch in the Matrix pause. I don't know. But if what you mean by refresh is changing things out with the season, taking things away from spring to restore or put into storage to bring back into your inventory later, and bringing out winter items during winter, if that's like a seasonal refresh, yes. A rotate. Keep your space clean. Keep your space merchandised. Yes. Be bringing in new inventory and restocking. Yes. But if what refresh means is get rid of things that someone's too impatient to wait for you to sell correctly.
No.
Or endlessly, uselessly move the same objects around in different ways. And I will hear the weirdest rationalizations of this. We have customers that come in every single week. And then they'll think it's a whole new booth. No, they won't. First of all, and if they do, I can tell you this much, they're not shopping every single week from that space. No matter how many, even if they're like, oh, I never noticed that teacup before, but you moved it 2 inches to the left, so now I do. Right? Refresh. They're still not more likely to then buy it. So it's kind of this nonsensical thing. It is a way for managers and owners to convince you that you're not doing something right. Now, merchandising can be done well, but that's something else entirely as well. If things aren't selling, figure out why. That's your first step.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. You have to figure out the real reason. If you have great product, I mean, I have some booths, and I hate to say it, but some of our lower evaluation spaces, I will not spend as much time on as some of our higher evaluation spaces. Even there, our inventory is so good and so well placed for that demographic or that booth space.
Yeah.
That it still sells, and it sells quickly. So even when it's not merchandised super well, and I haven't spent a lot of time rotating things out, and it might not get there that often, things are still selling. So if things aren't selling, it's not a matter of move all the pink from the right to the left and the white to the bottom or something. That's just not the issue.
I think the puppy wanted to join the podcast. I'll try to keep her away with her squeaky toys.
Is that what she was doing? She was like rolling the thing around. I'm trying to think. Is there like a lot of other just like pointers? Watch out for the loudest person in the room.
The loudest person in the room is often
the least knowledgeable.
And knowledgeable.
And they will happily offer you horrible advice endlessly.
Mm-hmm. Watch out for unsolicited advice. Again, that kind of coincides sometimes with the last person in the room. Not that you can't listen to people, but you got to decipher what their intentions are and be able to grasp it. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That person's not knowledgeable. They're just trying to act as if they have all the answers. So just be mindful of that. We've run into that quite often. You get an eye for it or an ear for it, so to speak. And
sometimes you can manage poor management.
Yes.
If that makes sense. If it's lucrative enough and worthwhile enough to invest that extra time and energy into doing so, usually it isn't. Usually you're just holding yourself back from some better opportunity. Yeah. But if you can, and if you are making profit and it's worth it to manage the bad management, like handle the bad handlers, then yes, do so. But 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be. I would say do keep, if you're doing, whether it's farmer's market, vintage, mercantile, artisanal, any of these things, keep it clean, keep it neat. If that means stopping in extra to tighten things up and tidy up because you do have really high foot traffic and stuff does get moved around in your booth.
Yeah.
Or if you're at a farmer's market and you're running through customers so fast that stuff is getting scattered all over the little card folding table you might be using or whatever, take the time to try to keep it as neat, clean, merchandised well as possible. That does help.
Absolutely.
It's a nicer experience for everyone. It can be a safer experience. If you're doing an antique booth, things get broken sometimes. You might need to go in there and pick up broken china, or it's unfortunate, but it happens.
For sure.
Also, the pieces you're selling, the cleaner they are, the better. The better condition they are, the better. Now, I'm not saying that applies to like a rusted piece of like iron yard art that someone's buying because it looks weathered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's not something that's going to be clean.
Right.
But, and again, this goes back to the whole apply this information where it makes sense. But when you're, say, selling a vintage teapot, you do want the one that doesn't have a crack in the handle or a chip on the rim or isn't missing its lid.
Yeah.
Or has a cleaner bottom than the one that's covered in gook or dirty or something like that. It does matter. The better quality your items are and the cleaner and neater they are and the cleaner and neater their merchandise to be viewable, the more you're going to get for them. The higher your returns are going to be. That's just like, it's just a fact of the trade.
Yeah, makes sense.
Undamaged items, I guess, is what I'm saying. Go after undamaged, and then if you can clean them without damaging them, if you do know how, if you have trained in it, you have researched in it, you have practiced in it, then do so. If maybe you're a furniture store, I know people do that.
That is important, yeah.
Do lighten things up if you can. If you're in an outdoor sunny space and venue, then you've already got as much light as weather and the elements are going to provide. But if you're in an indoor space and you have a choice between renting a dark corner booth and a well-lit booth under a skylight or near a window, and there could be a premium. There could be a premium on the space. We have to pay more for it. Usually it's worth it. If you're allowed to bring in a lamp, bring in a lamp. You know, if you're allowed to do fairy lights or something and plug them in.
Yeah.
Lightening up a space always helps. It's going to attract visibility. It just, you're going to get a higher return faster every time. Don't put breakables on the floor.
Or 7 feet in the air.
Or 7 feet in the air. Don't over clutter. I see that a lot. I know some people say they love the hunt. They'll love the hunt right until they fall and you're getting an insurance claim. So I would, and honestly, you're just not going to get as much money. Within those sorts of spaces, it's always a bargain deal. It's always like, I'm searching, to be fair, that consumer that's having to search through all these dusty piles of things, they're doing all the work for you.
Yeah,
they deserve the deal because they're having to get filthy and dig around and find it and all this other stuff. But if you provide a clean space, then you don't have to pay the customer to do that for you, and you get more money out of your objects. Don't listen to endless prattle about, hanging things on walls and height, and layering and all this stuff. It's rarely done well if you don't have a background in interior design. I actually worked for a fairly famous interior design firm for a while, but not everyone has that. And even when you have it, you can get off your game quick. So it's not always about layering. That can actually be something that's not actually helpful. Pinning like an old license plate to a wall 6 feet in the air is not going to result in that getting sold or more pieces from your booth getting sold. It's just not true. Oh, I've seen people that will go make people get things down from them. No, 9 times out of 10, it's line of sight, right? Visual line of sight. Those are where your first sales are going to be. And
yeah, and same thing with, not to get too into the behind the like a log cabinet, but it's a whole other.
It can be horrible. People will avoid opening them. It's not good for the stuff inside of them. The temperature could be bad or wrong. Yep. And they'll become decoration, not inventory. Let's say it that way.
That's a good quote.
So don't do it. Don't waste time doing it. It's customer decor. If it weren't, these people who say, oh, use a focal point, do a pyramid structure, layer your goods, stay in your lane, get a lot of smells. If that worked, why don't you see it in Kohl's? Right? Like, why don't you
Yeah.
see it in brand stores, right? What do you see? You see clean, clear merchandising done well at visual level. It's minimalized. It is not layers on layers on layers of different textures and things.
Yeah.
And if you have a pyramidal focal point, that's going to work 9 times out of 10 inside of a 6 foot or 8 foot space, which is your booth or whatever. Like, it's just not true. It's people who don't actually understand interior design and merchandising very well for what the vendors are trying to do and accomplish. What you are trying to do in your booth is get people to come into your booth and have the right products to sell in your booth in a way that's easy, friendly, and comfortable enough to make it worth it to pay what you're asking.
Absolutely.
That's what you're doing. So eye level sells, that's retail law 101. So if you want to move something faster, put it at eye level. That's going to help you more than all these other tips and tricks that you'll find all over the internet and told to you by people trying to help you out. You know, Apple doesn't sell you one of the 10 iPads because it's pinned 5 feet in the air above your head and looks cool. They sell it to you because it's at eye level and you're handling it and it's easy to engage with. If it's above your head, it's not making you bread.
That's a good one.
It's true. Do brand, do merchandise. Don't bother with huge time investments in layering. Grouping like with like, right? How many times have I heard that? First of all, yes and no. It can work when it works well. If you have 40 wooden rolling pins and 3 large mason jars, you're not going to sell a single rolling pin.
Yeah.
If you have 3 and they all have different colored handles and they all look unique, and you've left room in the mason jar to look like other ones have already sold because you only have 3 left, that is enticing. That's like with like.
Exactly.
But putting 40 of something all in a row or all of it in the same place, that, first of all, it makes it look like, why are there so many of them? Why are none of them selling? That's, just think about when you go into a place. Even if you walk up to a stack of t-shirts in some place that sells soft goods, and you see that this stack is sold out, there's only 1 left. That stack is sold out, there's only 3 left. But here's this one type of shirt, and there's 20 of them in a pile.
Right.
You're now less emotionally engaged in buying one too, because you're like, why has no one else bought one? So the like with like is very over touted. It's not always real. Grouping, theming, these sorts of words. It's a way to make you endlessly work and feel like you're investing more time. It also will make all of your things just blend in. Because when you're working with these antique and vendor spaces in these sorts of mercantiles, you are paying square footage rent. You have to make the most of your space for your inventory.
For sure.
So it's a beautiful idea if you have 500 square feet and you're doing 1 8-foot table where you're grouping like with like inside of 5 inches on that table.
Yeah.
It's not a great idea for where you have a 5x6 space or an 8x10 space or 1 bookshelf or 1 wall that you're allowed to use. It's just not going to work out well.
Yeah.
And I get that people think they read like 1 interior design book or something or 1 merchandising book and that this works all the time. It really doesn't. It also, if all the other vendors are doing exactly what you're doing, grouping like with like, theming, merchandising the same way with layering, all the same colors, it all looks like coastal grandma, it all looks like soft cottagecore, then none of you are selling any of it because it all looks exactly the same. You're all doing the same things. You're all trying to look like the interior of, you know, a Summer Line Pier 1 from 1997. And when someone walks into a store like that, they're walking into that store because they're already looking for that theming. When they're walking into an antique vintage collectible space, they are not doing that. And they are not going to buy yours over someone else's when you all have those same practices in place. They are going to walk to the booth next to you. That's the 1 out of 10 of you who didn't do any of that just because it looks more eye-catching because it's messy. Or just because it's got bright colors in it randomly. It looks garish.
Eclectic. That's part of what makes antique so cool is the variety. You don't want all the same things, right? That something that stands out catches your eye. Not the 17th rolling pin.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or like every single person has this type of wooden table with this type of white soft texture linen with this vase and then this pillar candle holder and then this candle and then this sachet of lavender.
Right.
And it's all layered so beautifully and merchandised so beautifully and it's all using a trifecta effect and it's all like with like and it's all, and no one's seeing any of it because it's all blending into itself. It all looks like everything else. Yep. Whereas that guy over there who forgot to restock a shelf so there's only 2 things left on it and it looks empty like he's not doing his job, that's what we call curated. That's what we call pared down And now because it doesn't look like everything else, that's where people are going to go buy because they're going to think everything's sold out on that shelf. What is left?
Exactly.
So you need to maximize your space. I'm not saying don't fill your space, but I am saying do not overinvest time in layering, theming, these sorts of practices, constant refreshing. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's rarely done correctly or well. You're probably cluttering whether or not you know it. You're probably not layering. Layering it does not have to do with what people think it has to do with. You should be choosing your focal point, but I got to tell you, even if you know what you're doing, in anything less than like a 20 by 20, you're not choosing your focal point. Someone's walking into a multi-vendor business, focal point is already out the window or has been chosen when they veer to the right from the moment they walk in where the cash register is. So you're not going to get them to reorientate themselves as they're walking by your 5-foot space in a line of other. It's not how it works.
Especially, as you said, in antique type of malls where you have all different types of sizes and heights and stuff. Someone's looking up at one booth, going to the next booth. They're not going to recenter and refocus like a camera lens in the middle. So you can't predict or you can't guarantee that the focal point is there. So
you know what they will see in every booth they walk by, though? Whatever's at their line of sight.
Yeah.
Because they're going to forget to look up and down and around, especially if there's a lot of cluttering. But William's 100% correct. That's not how it works. That's not what focal point means. That's not what a pyramid effect is. That's like if you take any real interior design, merchandising, these sorts of things, marketing, you learn that's... No. You can't apply the same rules that you apply when building an actual Starbucks to market coffee beans when you're building the location for that practice to your tiny space within a space of 100 other vendors that has not been built for that practice of focal point, theming, marketing, merchandising, and layering. It's not going to happen. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't enjoy it. I'm not saying don't decorate. But I am saying do not endlessly invest time in this. Your time is money. Time is money. And do not think you're doing something wrong. And if people are telling you you're not doing these things right, that's why your stuff isn't selling. There's something else going on. You got to figure out what it is. Learn some basic business math. Buying something for $3 and selling it for $12 is not a 75% profit. We kind of talked about this already. It's you have to account for how much money did it cost to get the item. That's not just the price of the item. That's your travel time, gas. Mm-hmm. Did you have to package it into something? Did you have to pay for that packaging? Did someone have to come with you? Like there's other things that are involved. And then how much is it worth now? And now you might have to clean it. You might have to restore it. You might have to tag it. You might have to research it. So then you got to apply all those prices to it. Yeah. And then you got to transport it back to a physical space if you're not selling online. That's more gas money, more time. And then you having to do things like layer theme, clean the space. You're now paying, how much rent is it costing you per month? You have 150 things in your 30-foot square space. How much does that break down to? Yes. So you got to account for all of this, and you should be accounting for a salary, some kind of salary. I hear people all the time. So what are the red flags? My friend who said, I want to get a physical space. What do I look out for? Look out for yourself. The first time you hear someone say, I made my rent, like it's a good thing, know that that's insanity. Know that that is completely not business, doesn't work. That's not something to be excited about. You need to, if you're paying rent, you need to not only make your rent, you need to cover commission if there's commission being charged. You need to cover all these other expenses that are involved in your work, and you need to be making profit on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I'm going to cover my rent, make enough money to even pay for the inventory and not any of these, or even all those other things, and then still not see profit. You also have to see profit on top of that. If you're not running a business. You're running a distribution center. I don't know. You're doing something for free that's not a business. And that's in basic business math. So I bought it for $3 and sold it for, I bought it for $5, sold it for $15. Oh, I made 3 times as much. No, you didn't. You just don't know what you're doing. And you're not paying attention to it, so you don't know how much money you're giving away. Know something about what you're doing. You need to know something about what you're selling. You do, to be good at it.
You do.
And keep learning more. Don't be shut down to the idea of staying on top of it. There's always ways to learn more and be improving. And if someone else you're working with or have to work with doesn't understand that, they're not running a good business.
Yeah.
And you have to wear a lot of hats. It's not just about maybe you just sell collectible toys or just sell electronics that you resell or just sell, soft goods like vintage denim jeans or jackets or something. There's so many arenas, right? But it's not just that. You also need to know something about what you're doing when it comes to running a physical space, paying bills on time for that space, knowing what the rates are in your area. That's like if you sell online, you're a photographer. You need to know something about photography. You are a listing agent. You need to know something about how to create an appealing listing.
You're a shipping manager. You're
also a wholesale consultant for best shipping goods.
Right.
Because you have to go figure out, what am I going to use to sell? What are my wrappings? Are they the cheapest I can get for what I need them to do? All of these things, those are a lot of hats. And so there's always more to learn. There's always more to learn. And the more you learn, the more money you're going to make. It's just a truism. Don't take bad advice. Know something about what you're doing. It sounds so common sense. And yet I feel like very few people take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Which is how we've become very lucrative.
Yeah.
If you take it seriously, you can do very well and people will really appreciate you for your efforts. Hopefully, if you wind up renting from someone, it's someone who can admit when they're wrong. I would say that's like in every relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's
business,
personal, friendship, business. The best relationships in life that you're going to be able to navigate well are those where you and others involved in them can admit that they don't know everything, that they sometimes get it wrong, or that they've made a mistake here and there.
Accountability is important.
Yes, absolutely. Don't sell clear glass.
Don't sell, or milk glass.
Don't sell all brown wood furniture.
Yeah.
Just don't sell milk glass. Don't sell low quality china, repros, cheap silver plate because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
Don't sell a lot of small items where there's a lot of shoplifting. Like, think about these things. I feel like everyone who doesn't have a good knowledge base and is just starting out in antiques tries to sell clear glass or milk glass at some point. And the only time we've seen milk glass done well is networked with
wedding seasons
with wedding planners where you're like sourcing on an annual basis to sell it to a prop shop or a theming and decorator who then reuses it and therefore can pay for it. Or like when people are repurposing it, like upcycling it into being like holding like a cactus or something.
It's just tough all around.
Yeah. Obviously. But you're not going to sell it. You're not going to sell that milk glass and clear glass that you bought.
No.
So increase your knowledge base. And if you increase your knowledge base, you're going to find things that are more profitable and sell. I think, I mean, that kind of covers a lot of it.
Yeah, we don't want to overwhelm the folks.
Yeah, this is a long part 2 already, too.
Yeah.
But, and then also you have to think about your space. You need to be, and maybe I'll approach this somewhere else, but your booth, what matters more than theming and all of these things is you need to stand out. So if you're trying to sell colored glass where there's 17 other colored glass vendors, that's a tough sell. Colored glass does well across the board, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you need to be remarkable in some way. You need to be special. And I wouldn't say go rent a space if you're not going to be special in that space.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know the marketplace, and you don't want to just be another cog in that wheel.
Yeah, everyone's trying to sell the same things. Yeah. It's a big problem.
Yep.
And then they're all competing directly against each other.
And then you get to fight to the bottom with the price.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Don't be a part of it. Don't be a part of it. And there are ways, like, let's say you do want to sell all the same things that everyone else in there is already selling. But there are ways, make yourself stand out, and you can be niche, which means like maybe everybody sells some vintage music paraphernalia, but you can be niche by only selling LPs, only selling music posters, or if you expand, you still keep it in the realm of only cassettes and radios to go with LPs and concert posters. Exactly. So in that way you can be very niche, which means even if other people are selling things like that in ones or twos in their spaces, you're the go-to booth for those things, and you will get returning clientele, people who will travel to that space just to go to your niche booth.
Exactly.
Another way to be special and stand out is, even if you can't, dedicate one thing that no one else is doing, even if it's just like one bookshelf in your vending space. So maybe you sell all the same antiques and vintage items as everyone else does, but you have one booth where you always put gothic horror dolls. Or, just, I'm not saying everybody would want to do that, but it's something that, and then you do it year round. You don't just do it at Halloween. You don't just do it when you have it, but you make a point of sourcing that for that one shelf year round, which again, even if people aren't returning for that specific item over and over again, it's going to make your entire space memorable. And if they buy something else from your space, they can even tell their friends, which is great, word of mouth, but they're going to remember it. They're going to go, I found this in that booth with those weird gothic horror dolls on that one shelf every time.
Yeah.
And when you're mixed into a group of 50 or 80 vendors or even just 12, it matters.
It does.
So you have to make yourself special, make yourself stand out, or be niche. You got to find a way to make it unique. That could be branding. It could be merchandising. Maybe you're lucky enough you're the only ones reselling collectible toys in a vintage place of all China. That could be what makes you special, and you'll do incredibly well. But you have to think about that. More important than layering or theming or any of those other silly things, like refreshing. If you don't have that down, you're not going to make money anyway.
Exactly.
Okay. Tips and tricks on how to do good when you're just getting started, hopefully.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.